Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. We have one of our sponsors on the show today in i-80 Gold. Really happy to have them on the show because I am working on a report right now that I'm hoping to put out this afternoon as gold has reached a 52 or an all-time high and a weekly high and a daily high today. And I believe that the next step is to see the gold stocks start to move into the gold bull market. We'll talk about a catalyst that I see coming for that not too distant future. But in this report that I'm working on, I'm presenting i-80 Gold as my top gold stock turnaround story. I did this a couple of years ago with McEwen Mining, and they're up about 400% since that late 2022 pick as a turnaround play. And I'm very confident of i-80 Gold's ability to be a turnaround play due to the quality of the significant quality of their assets. The first thing you need to do in a turnaround is to stop going down. And I think that is now happening. And then you start going up in the positive direction. So that's why I'm happy to feature i-80 Gold in my new report I'm working on and have Ewan on to talk today. Ewan, thanks a lot for joining me.
Thanks for having me on again. It's been a couple of months since we chatted, so good to see you again, Allan.
Yeah, well, we always have lots to talk about. Over the past couple years, especially in the last year, we had really been banging the drum on gold. And boy, is it ever turning out to be prescient. Gold is now at all-time highs. And, for the various reasons we talked about. And it's quite an exciting time in the gold, for gold, for sure.
Yeah, well, a couple of months ago, I remember probably about 4 or 5 months ago now, we had a conversation where we didn't really talk about i-80. We talked mainly about gold, and we were both talking about 2,500, maybe 27 is going to be a reality in 2024. And I think a lot of people thought we were crazy, but you can't look at us as crazy anymore. And you look at the geopolitical environment around the world,
Wow.
assassination attempts on presidents, it's crazy out there. The BRICS dollar, a competition for the US dollar, Saudi Arabia now apparently taking other currencies instead of the petrodollar. There's so many factors working in the favor of gold that yeah, I think it's a great time to be investing in our sector, and the generalists still aren't here. So there's still a big tag on to come. And I'd like to think, as your turnaround story, that a pure US, one of the biggest holders of gold and silver resources in the United States, and a US listed company will be one of the top performers. So
Ewan, that is a huge thing because it's harder these days than it's ever been for American investors to invest in Canadian mining companies. And, as the generalists come in, they're going to be looking for New York Stock Exchange listed companies because they can easily buy those companies and the menu for them in options to do that is very limited.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we strategically listed in the US because we are a pure US focused company, and I just don't think the investors are even close to being there yet. They're so used to making money on the Nvidias and Apple, Microsoft, that the need to go look at a volatile sector like gold or oil, or sectors like gold and oil have been, I guess, put a bit on the back burner. But you can't ignore record prices. And what I see now, 2,700 was my target for this year. And in some ways, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we break through that. And we're just getting active again with our projects and advancing certain initiatives. And if you recall back in 2022, i-80 was the best performing gold stock on the TSX. And last year wasn't so kind to us as we started talking about development, and people are always worried about capex. But it's definitely, I believe we put together a tremendous portfolio, uh, best jurisdiction in the world, and we will come out on top here.
Well, and I always hear people talk about how important management is. And I think sometimes it gets lost on people that i-80 Gold is a product of a spin out when Equinox bought out Premier Gold for the 60% interest in the Greenstone mine. Fast forward a couple of years, and now Greenstone, a project you guys found. I remember that, Ewan, because I remember the hype that was going on for Geraldton because a little junior had found some ground. And then I saw you make a big move into Geraldton. And I said, you know what? I think you and Premier is going to have the crown jewel in that camp. And sure enough, now that Equinox is building it or has built it and it turning it on, that's going to launch them almost halfway from their stated goal to become a 1 million ounce gold producer. They were about 400. This will bring them up over 800, close to 900,000 ounces per year. And that's based on a project your team found and advanced.
Yeah, it's good to see. Its grand opening is in August, so it's going to be a good event to attend. We spent a lot of years. We acquired the project in early 2008. We started working it, and here we are 16 years later, and it's a reality. And it is now the flagship operation for Equinox.
Equinox. Yeah.
And what people don't know a lot is we talked just before we got online here today, is the fact that i-80 is not only blessed with the three refractory deposits that we're advancing and the polymetallics we have at Ruby Hill, but we also have 5 oxide gold deposits in our portfolio that we probably haven't done a good job messaging because we don't want people to be confused. But the Mineral Point project at Ruby Hill is one of the largest gold silver deposits in North America. And it's definitely on par size-wise with the Greenstone project. And for the most part, our investors don't even know that we own that asset.
And it's big. You're talking millions of ounces of gold and one of the largest undeveloped silver deposits that's combined with the gold anywhere in North America. I think it is, isn't it, Ewan? Or in the United States at least.
Yeah, in the United States for sure. It's I think in all categories, it's over 5 million ounces of gold and 170 million ounces of silver. So those type of scale projects are quite difficult to find, and that came with the Ruby Hill acquisition. And to date, we've been really focused on the higher grade gold zones and the polymetallic discoveries that we made. But we will begin probably hearing more and more about the other opportunities there as we ramp up our work on the project that's really expected to really ramp up on the closing of our planned partnership.
Sometimes people get really wrapped up on grade, and I agree, grade is really important. But you have to differentiate between, are you looking at an underground grade or an open pit grade? And sometimes what are called low grade open pits can actually be high grade open pits. For example, the average, I think the average oxide gold mine is now below a half a gram. So you start coming in at a gram or better over hundreds of 100 or 200 meters. That's a high grade open pit oxide system.
Yeah, the average grade of our Granite Creek oxide project, which is separate from the Mineral Point at Ruby Hill. At Granite Creek, we also have a planned open pit project. We did a PEA on it early in our existence, so in 2021, and it's a very good looking project. It's 1.3 million ounces. of just over 1.4 grams per ton. And as you said, that's almost three times the average grade of oxide projects. So these projects are things that we believe will bring future value to our company. They're not in our crosshairs in the near term, but definitely provide tremendous upside for i-80 going forward.
But they could become something that you could unlock value from uh, in a kind of a maybe people won't realize that it could happen fairly soon, that you could unlock. Because I mean, I look at all those oxide deposits you have, you and you know that would be a company maker for. Look at Anglo; they're getting all excited about their silicon project, and you know, because it's an oxide open pit target. You know, are you looking at some ways to unlock value there?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at what should we do with these assets? Do we continue to sit on them for several years within i-80, or do we consider other options for them? So it's definitely some of the strategic planning we're doing this year is how do we maximize the value of this portfolio that includes projects that, for the most part, the market doesn't even know we own. And when you look at a project like Granite Creek, we've been talking a lot about the South Pacific Zone, the underground work that we're doing. And other than early on, we don't talk about the fact that it also has a very high grade oxide. Ruby Hill, so focused on the hilltop discovery and expanding Ruby Deeps. The Mineral Point has been really a forgotten part of the story. And you look at McCoy Cove, we've been very focused, obviously, on we put in the underground, we're drilling from underground on the Cove deposit, but right next door is McCoy, and McCoy was a pretty good open pit, and we believe it has the potential to have a pretty substantial resource. And then finally, if you go up north and you look at the Lone Tree site, as part of that acquisition, we got Buffalo Mountain from Nevada Gold Mines. And Buffalo Mountain is an oxide project that we only did a bit of work on in 2022, but our southmost hole in the main zone was a gram over 134 meters. It's wide open for expansion. It's right beside Marigold, SSR's primary operation now. So yeah, there's tremendous assets within this company that a lot of investors don't even know we own. And we're definitely looking at how do we unlock that value going forward.
Okay. So you had some news out a couple of weeks ago, you and you know, I know metallurgical work is not the kind of stuff that gets a lot of people too excited, but the reason that you did the metallurgical work at Ruby Hill, you know, could be, is it associated with the company that you've been talking with about the possibility of a joint venture? Did they want to understand more about the metallurgy?
Yeah, we signed that term sheet quite some time ago, but for those who followed closely, we did say that we were doing a metallurgical drill program as part of the due diligence on that asset. So when we first signed it, about a month later, we completed some drilling. So we did about, I think it was about 6 or 7 drill holes into the main zones, and they are doing metallurgy to ensure that these metals are recoverable. And we want to do our own as well. So we did our own metallurgy, and ours was completed probably around the same time or a little in advance of theirs. But we released it because the metallurgical results, for the most part, other than the oxide mineralization, was very straightforward. We believe very attractive to third-party smelters, and really one of the key items for that partnership to move forward was ensuring that this material is recoverable.
Well, it's a bit of a dual thing, isn't it, Ewan? Because not only would a major mining company or any mining company want to know about recovery of the metals, but you're looking at this as a base metal and a gold project. So if you've got material that has both gold and base metals, and somebody is interested in the base metals, you have to understand the recovery of the gold and the base metals when you're trying to put together a partnership. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's definitely a project that has a lot of I wouldn't say a lot of moving parts, but it has different components. There's oxide gold, refractory gold, CRD, skarn. And given if you're going to be coming in as a partner, you want to make sure that these metals will be recoverable. And all of our work to date points that way, that it is very good metallurgical qualities. I believe some of the better ones you'll find, especially in the skarn zones at Ruby Hill. So it's just the confirmation that the project is developable, which is important to any incoming partner.
And how you develop it as a joint venture that's looking at one group is the joint venture is looking at base metals, and then i-80 Gold is looking at gold. So you have to figure out how you're getting those metals out of the ground, the recovery of those metals, who's going to pay for what. This isn't, everybody thinks, oh, you just sign an agreement and announce it, por favor. It doesn't work like that.
No, the joint venture agreements are typically complex. There's a lot of things you don't think of as you're moving through it. This one, I would say even more complex because there is the base metals and the gold, and we would like to secure that in the joint venture that refractory gold mineralization would be available for us to take up to Lone Tree as part of our restart plan for the autoclave facility. And of course, the incoming party is more interested in the base metal side. So there is an agreement whereby a certain portion of the concentrates produced will go to their facilities. And so there's multiple components to the agreement to negotiate, and we're working through those components. But the metallurgy was one of the big things we were waiting on before going final.
Perfect. So things are moving forward on that front.
They continue to, and people, I know that there's a lot of talk about people wanting it, and sure, it takes financial pressure off of i-80, but as you know, most companies want 100% of the asset. Equinox bought Orion out of their 40% for $1 billion recently. So there's something to be said about partners, but the assistance financially often is deemed to be beneficial, and that's how we feel right now with all of the moving parts of our company and the multiple projects that for us to continue to advance these on a good pace, we do need somebody to take some of the risk off our balance sheet, and this partnership should do just that.
And you're a very talented and well known for your deal making abilities, Ewan. I don't think I'm being hyped there. I've watched it over my 25 years of knowing you. I think a lot of other people in the industry have as well. I know for sure they have. Some legendary investors out there that I talk to have. And you clearly understand the need to keep your fate in your hands, not in the major's hands.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's always the situation that we look for. Some monster projects are probably better built by majors, but you also do lose some of the control and some of the control of your own destiny by having a majority partner. So the the agreement we've struck, we believe, is very favorable for us because we maintain majority ownership and operatorship, and that we had multiple parties who were interested in working with us at Ruby Hill, and it was mainly the fact that this group was not stuck on being the majority owner and operator and maybe totally change the plan of what we're looking to do. I think we're pretty aligned on what we'd like to achieve over the next 2 years, and it should be a great working relationship.
And sometimes junior miners are being a little bit unrealistic that they want to maintain operatorship of a project. In your case, you've got people on your team that have built and operated mines for the biggest Nevada mining companies. And so, it's not just wishful thinking that you want to stay as operator. You've got the people to pull that off.
Yes, Matt Gilley, our president and chief operating officer, was the executive GM of general manager. He ran the Cortez district. That's the second largest mining operation in Nevada. Andy Cole, who works with us as a senior consultant, ran the Gold Strike facility and brought the whole Carlin operations together. That's, I believe, the largest gold mining operation combined in North America. So
Wow.
the people we've assembled on our team are top notch, great experience, and they're really the people who will build this company in the background.
And they don't come cheap, and you got to pay to have that team and keep them happy, right, Ewan?
Yeah, and we have four active sites, so they're not the only two. That we have
Right.
pretty deep teams in behind, and we continue to advance the underground program at Granite Creek. We just touched ore in the South Pacific Zone a couple of weeks ago. Just so you know, first time I've mentioned that, but
Ah,
um,
good.
so we're just getting into that horizon. We're going to do some test mining on tried various mining methods, see which one works best, and we've been drilling it out to try to increase our M&I resource because a lot of the South Pacific Zone would be classified as inferred if we when we publish a resource. So some definition drilling is required, and we're just looking at the logistics and the cost of doing it from surface and underground. Um, the deposit starts at about 250 meters deep, goes to about 600 meters deep. It's wide open, by the way, as you know, but drilling at the deeper
And great
depths.
continuity.
Yes, it looks great. We just need to get that tightened up drilling for a full feasibility and a production decision. And it's a lot cheaper to do that from underground than surface. So we're just looking at, do we continue to try to drill this out very expensively from surface, or do we save capital and put in an underground drift and do the definition drilling from underground with a lot less meters, cheaper cost per meter, and a lot better precision when you're up against a deposit rather than trying to hit it from by the time the hole hits the target 600 meters away.
Ewan, you're often, and you say it yourself, you're an exploration guy at heart. But the key to exploration is the truth machine. But there's another truth machine in mining, and that is the actual when you put that sucker into production and material starts going through the real big truth machine. You got to be pretty excited about the fact that you're starting to see ore, and you can start some test mining to make sure you know that you guys are not going to fall into the problem that a lot of new mining companies do, which is to rush to production, and then they screw it up and they end up going bankrupt.
Yeah, there's been a few companies who haven't succeeded in the transition from Explorer code to Develop code to Mine code. And a lot of that is because most technical studies and feasibilities and mine plans are generated largely from surface drilling only. So you get to see the core, engineers put together your block model or your geological model. And the assumption is that this is a continuous vein or a continuous system. And there are instances throughout the history of mining where companies go underground to mine for us, it's demonstrate the continuity first before you call a mining operation. So taking it a step further than the typical program, because there are those companies that failed because what turned out to be reality once they got underground into the zone was not like they inferred. They inferred this drill hole lines up with this one, lines up with this one, didn't interpret any faults in between or offsets in the mineralization, drew a nice sort of wiggly vein running along and built a mine plan on it. So getting to having the opportunity to go in and make sure that continuity is there and the rock quality is such that you can mine it a certain usually you want to say, I'm going to long hole mine everything because it's a cheap mining method. but most deposits aren't amenable to long hole mining. So doing that in a technical study and then 6 months after going underground saying the mining
Oops.
method we put in, we implied doesn't work right. So we're going to have to make a hybrid mining method, or maybe two mining methods will be used instead of the one. And that's a luxury we have at Granite Creek. And we expect to have once we go underground at Ruby Hill, is we're not going underground at Ruby Hill because we're going straight into mining. It's to do the definition drilling from underground, do the test mining, ensure that we have the continuity so that when we do call a production decision, that the numbers we say we're going to deliver are deliverable, and that'll provide a lot more credibility for the company long term.
Well, you and I are exploration guys at heart, but a lot of the work you do to assess the quality of an exploration project also is very meaningful in the mining. And it's why you and I offline, when we do talk about other projects, we're always looking at it from a continuity perspective because we understand as an explorer how important that is as a miner. And so those two often, the exploration at heart guys, often know a lot about what's important on the mining side as well.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of examples where a company makes a new discovery and people see their initial drill holes and the stock goes up two, three times. And then they start, as you say, with the truth machine, focusing, doing step outs and seeing if it's continuous and either it's not continuous, which happens way more often than not, or that your best hole was your first hole and you never had hit another one like it.
Or
So
they make continuity sound like, oh, you got a hole here and 100 meters away, you got a hole here, and they're continuous. I'm sorry, folks, but in a high grade system, you got to drill that thing off very tightly to make sure that it is continuous. You can't just wave your, well, they do, but that's why they run into problems with continuity in the mining operation as well.
yes, for sure. It's not an easy industry. It's
No.
capital intensive, needs a lot of upfront work. Use Greenstone as an example again. 16 years from first drilling to officially being a mining operation. And you know what? It's not for the faint of heart. Put a lot of years of my career into that project, and now I'm putting years of my career into making sure we do successful projects in Nevada as well.
Right, right, right. Well, you and you're always generous with your time, and I always like talking to you, whether it's on in front of a camera or when we're talking about other projects that we're looking at. But I think we're in the start of a very exciting scenario for the gold mining industry. We've had a great run in the price of gold. I think it's got I think it's going a lot higher. I think the world is awash with debt. I call it the death spiral of debt.
Agree
And,
with you there.
now people are starting to call it the death spiral of debt, and it's being talked about more often. The next thing that I think happens is that people start talking more about the other part of the story, which is a return to the gold standard. And what I mean by that is right now there's $300 trillion of global debt. And if you look at the reserves of the central bankers of the world, they only own about 1% of gold backing up that $300 trillion of debt. I think there's going to come a time when they're backing that debt up in a more significant way. That's the real gold standard. The second part that I don't think a lot of people get is they say that the US dollar is the cleanest dirty shirt in the room, if you will. Nobody needs to buy the dirty shirts. There is a great real currency out there called gold. that is not a dirty shirt. It protects stores your value, protects you against inflation. And not only do I think it's going to back up more of the world debt, I also think it's going to regain its position as an important asset for trading goods throughout the world as well. Ewan, you live in Canada, I live in Mexico. If we have to do a transaction, I got to convert it to Canadian dollars. It's got to go into pesos. And so I sell you something today for $1 and my margin of profit is 5 cents. I could lose all my profit in 2 days of trading. Whereas if you gave me $1 worth of gold, there's a chance that my $1 worth of gold is going to be $1.05 2 days from now.
Well, a good friend of mine and a gentleman I think who you know, Cam Curry, he's got a great statement on why gold is so important. It's the only currency that has no debt obligation. It has no political attachment, and there's no printing press. So that's a great way to look at gold as a solid currency, and it's good to see that people around the world, central banks are starting to recognize that this fiat currency, sure, it's a good idea, but in long-term value, just look at the destruction. What did a dollar buy you 40 years ago compared to what it buys you today?
90% of its purchasing power has been lost since the US went off the gold standard.
Yeah, since 2020, I believe that it's worth about 10 or 20% of the value. I mean, since 2000. So in 24 years, the purchasing power is about 10% of what it was. And if you would have invested in gold at the same time, you would have been buying an ounce for $200 or $250 an ounce. And today it's $2,500 an ounce. So 10 times increase in your purchasing power of gold versus what fiat currency has done in the same period.
So we're in agreement that it's gold's heading higher. And I think the next step, Ewan, is that we start to see the gold stocks join into the gold bull market. And my thesis for that happening is right around the corner. We've got gold now in the second quarter of 2024 has been around $2,350 an ounce. That is by far the best quarterly average price of gold ever. When this starts hitting the bottom line of gold miners, I think it brings in a lot of generalist investors to the gold stocks, and it will prove to be the catalyst that lifts up a lot of gold stock boats. What do you think?
I'm totally in alignment with you. I agree 100%. You've been pretty accurate in your calls, especially over the last couple of years on where we're going to see the gold price go. And like I said, some people called us crazy talking about $2,500-$2,700 gold a year or two ago. And today I don't think they'll be looking at us as being too crazy. I think more and more people are saying that these guys are right. And well, now we just need the equities to follow the gold price. It's been a remarkable spurt of nobody following it, and we've just started to see companies like Agnico break out and Barrick moving up strongly. Usually
Alamo,
with the big guys. Alamo.
Silvercrest.
Yeah, so the big guys start, then it gets down to the mid tiers, and then it goes to small producers, and then to the explorers, and it's just taking a bit longer this time, but it's going to happen.
I know you got to go, but I wanted to add one more thing, Ewan.
Okay.
Agnico Eagle did something like what you guys are doing, and it was a challenging period. They tried to bring 5 mines on in production at the same time, and it was challenging. But at the other end of it, now they're the second largest gold mining company in the world, and they are outperforming number 1 and number 3, Newmont and Barrick, quite significantly. So sometimes an aggressive growth strategy can be challenging, but I'm very positive about what comes out the other end for i-80 Gold.
As am I.
I'm going to let you go, Ewan, and I'm going to close it up. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks for having me, and sorry about the a bit. I'm on days off this week. I'm on a bit of a holiday week, and I'm at a place where it's bright behind me, and not my office where it's a bit better set up. But thanks for your time again, Alan, and
Here's
let's
to a
watch gold
summer to
continue to
remember
go.
for gold, Ewan.
For sure.
All righty. All right, folks, there you go. Just wanted to wrap it up by saying, i-80 Gold is my number one turnaround pick in the gold stocks. I think that they've been overly punished because of that in a bear market, when an aggressive plan is put into place and the stock goes down, everybody thinks, oh my God, it's over, it's over, it's over. But in a turnaround, you need to see it stop going down and then start going up. And I think we've got a great catalyst. I think i-80 Gold is full of catalysts for growth, but we also have an inflection point coming where these gold stocks are going to start joining the gold bull market. And when it comes to gold stocks that trade in America, there's not a lot for the generalist American investor to look at. i-80 Gold has a listing in the United States in the New York Stock Exchange. So they're one of a very few group of companies that can be on the menu for generalist investors in the United States. i-80 Gold is a sponsor. They pay me. I want you to be well aware of that. They pay me to put out content. They don't pay me for my opinion. My opinion is based on 30 years in this business, and I value my opinion very highly. And you can't pay me for my opinion. And I'm very thankful for their sponsorship because it benefits them getting their story out, as well as my viewers and readers, because sponsors help me to produce the content I do that I offer for free to my audience. Do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, have a great day, go to i-80's website and check them out, and we'll talk to you soon.